This is Colin O'Keefe for LXBN TV. The Dodd-Frank Act recently turned 4 years old. So now, after nearly half a decade, where does financial reform stand now? To discuss, we bring in attorney David Colapinto. He's with Colin and Colapinto and co-founder of the National Whistleblowers Center and also author on the Whistleblowers Protection blog. David, first, just as we sit now, just past the 4-year anniversary of the Dodd-Frank Act, what are your impressions of what it's accomplished so far? Or what stood out to you?
Yeah. Dodd-Frank, with respect to whistleblowers, is still in its infancy. The SEC has been spending the last couple of years setting up their program. But what Congress did in the Dodd-Frank Act was they mandated the SEC to provide rewards to whistleblowers of between 10 and 30% of any recovery of over $1 million if the whistleblower's information was used by the SEC to obtain that recovery. That was a major change, major sea shift in holding corporations accountable for financial fraud.
I see. And then second, you wrote on the Whistleblowers Protection blog that financial reform is really under attack right now. Can you explain for us here what you meant by that? What are the biggest areas for concern when it comes to financial reform being under attack?
The law faced stiff resistance from its inception. It was designed to combat the types of Ponzi schemes you read about, whether it was the Madoff scandal or whether it was other types of Ponzi schemes that are well known in the media, like the Stanford fund that went belly up, and there have been several others, and it's kind of amazing how many there actually were. Also, to strengthen the ability of the government to go after fraudsters who have been ripping off investors, been ripping off the public through insider trading violations and other types of securities violations. So they created a law or a mechanism to permit insiders, corporate insiders, to report anonymously. And their identity would not even be known to the SEC if they had an attorney and they followed the SEC's rules. And the SEC collected more than $1 million, they then would be eligible for the award. So corporate America hated this law from the beginning. They opposed it vigorously when it went to rulemaking after Congress passed the law. And now they have set off a whole new offensive in Congress, hoping that a business-friendly Congress, years after the financial debacle that occurred a few years ago, will be out of the public's mind, and that they can then lobby Congress to get rid of these types of rewards. So it has come under attack from the inception. It's under a huge assault right now, and it's going to continue.
I see. So lastly, let me ask you frankly about this threat. Is this something financial reform will eventually succumb to, or is this something that can be fought off?
Well, we're hoping it can be fought off because they're trying to kill, the most effective laws on the books to combat corporate fraud. And it's not just, securities fraud. It also involves their attack on the False Claims Act, which is the most successful whistleblower law. It brings in about $4 billion in recoveries per year to save the taxpayers. In other words, corporations are ripping off the American taxpayers to the tune of at least $4 billion a year. And they're getting away with it. And they would get away with it if this law was abolished. The only way the government learns of this type of fraud, well, not the only way, but probably the statistics show over 80% of the recoveries come from allegations or tips that are brought to the government's attention by whistleblowers. That's why these laws are effective, and that's why the corporations detest them.
I see. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. As you mentioned, though the Dodd-Frank Act is 4 years old, we're kind of just starting to see the true teeth of its enforcement power now. So we'll have to keep an eye on this to see what the brushback is on that as we go forward. Once again, that was David Colapinto of the Whistleblowers Protection blog. To read more of his insight on this issue, be sure to visit whistleblowersblog.org. Thank you for joining me today, David.
Well, thank you very much.